Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. I never liked driving at night. There's something about the dark that feels too big, too empty, like it's waiting for something you can't see coming. But that night was worse. That night, the dark felt alive. It was close to midnight when I left my friend's house. We'd spent the evening binge-watching old horror movies, the kind with scratchy film grain and predictable jump scares. We laughed through most of them, joked about how cheesy they were, about how nobody in their right mind would ever just walk toward the sound of screaming. You know, the kind of bravado that only exists when you're surrounded by pizza boxes and people. But alone, on a deserted stretch of country road, that bravado shriveled up real fast. The rain came down in sheets, hammering my windshield so hard the wipers could barely keep up. I had to squint just to make out the yellow lines on the road. My headlights carved a narrow path through the darkness. But beyond that, it was just blackness, swallowing everything whole. About halfway home, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, I saw him. He was standing at the side of the road, illuminated in the headlights for just a second. A man. No umbrella, no raincoat, just a dark figure, soaked to the bone, standing there like he'd been waiting for me. I should have kept driving. Every instinct in me screamed it, but reflex made me ease off the gas. Maybe he was hurt. Maybe he needed help. Then I saw his eyes. They didn't move. They didn't blink. They just locked onto me. I felt a wave of cold wash over me, a gut-deep certainty that if I stopped, something terrible would happen. Something that couldn't be undone. I pressed down on the accelerator. As I passed him, I risked a glance at the rearview mirror. Empty. Gone. Just like that. I shook my head, told myself the rain was playing tricks on me. Maybe he stepped into the woods. Maybe I'd imagine him altogether. It wouldn't be the first time a tired brain conjured up a ghost on a lonely road. 15 minutes later, I pulled into my driveway. Home. Safe. The porch light flickered, casting a sickly yellow glow over the front steps. I killed the engine, grabbed my keys, and froze. He was there, standing under the porch light. The same man. The same soaked clothes, clinging to his body like second skin. His hair plastered his forehead, water dripping from his fingertips, pooling around his bare feet. And he was smiling. Not a friendly smile. Not even a human one. It was the kind of smile you see on a wolf just before it tears out a throat. Wide. Hungry. I didn't move. Didn't even breathe. For a heartbeat. Maybe two. We just stared at each other through the glass. Then, slowly, deliberately, he lifted his hand and beckoned. Once, twice, like he was inviting me out. I felt my fingers shaking against the steering wheel. I locked the doors with a hard click. The sound seemed to echo in the car, loud and stupid. His smile widened, as if he enjoyed my fear. I reversed out of the driveway, so fast I nearly backed into the neighbor's mailbox. Tires skidding on wet pavement, heart punching against my ribs like it wanted out. I didn't even look back. Couldn't. I drove to the nearest gas station, a sad little place with flickering neon signs and a single-tired cashier inside. Parked under the buzzing overhead lights and sat there, engine running, doors locked, staring out into the night. But he never followed. At least, not that I could see. I spent the night in that parking lot, jumping at every shadow, every flash of movement in the rain. I tried to tell myself it was just exhaustion, just leftover fear from the horror movies. But even in the safety of that washed out light, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching me. That if I dared look too long into the darkness, I'd see him standing there, smiling. Morning came slow, a gray crawl across the sky. I waited until the world felt awake, until cars started filling the streets and people bustled about their lives, before finally heading home. My porch was empty when I got there. No muddy footprints, no puddles, no sign that anyone had been there at all. But later, when I went to grab my mail, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. On the front door, smeared into the wood like someone had dragged wet fingers across it, was a single word. Soon, no matter how hard I scrubbed, it wouldn't come off. And even now, even years later, sometimes when it rains hard enough to drown out my thoughts, I catch a glimpse of something from the corner of my eye. A shape, a man, standing just beyond the reach of the light, smiling, waiting. And I know, deep down, he's still out there, still coming, just waiting for the right night, when I'll be tired enough, scared enough, lonely enough to finally open the door. Story 2. Last winter, when the world was nothing but a wide, empty stretch of white and black and cold, I found myself driving through the mountains at 2 in the morning. The night swallowed everything outside the twin beams of my headlights. Snow fell so thick it felt alive, swirling and dancing, whispering against the windshield like tiny fingers tapping. I had the heater blasting, a bad cup of gas station coffee in the cup holder, and the radio tuned to static because every station out here seemed dead. Maybe that should have been my first sign to turn around. The road was mine, or it felt that way. Just me and the mountain, the quiet hum of tires on slick asphalt, and the steady rhythmic thunk-thunk of the wipers. And then, he appeared. A pickup truck. Old. Beat up. Rust spots blooming like disease across the hood. The grill twisted like a sneer. I hadn't seen him approach. It was like he'd grown out of the night itself. Headlights flaring behind me without warning. At first, I thought nothing of it. Mountain folks, I told myself. Maybe heading home after a late shift or a night spent in some bar tucked between the trees. But the truck didn't pass me. It didn't hang back either. It stayed right on my bumper, closer than any sane driver would dare in this kind of weather. I tapped the brakes lightly, a warning, but the pickup didn't budge. If anything, it edged even closer, its headlights so bright they turned my interior mirrors into burning holes. A slow, creeping unease slithered up my spine. I changed lanes, an easy, cautious move. He changed lanes too, almost glued to me. I slowed down. He slowed too. It stopped being an annoyance and started feeling like something else. Something worse. Like a cat playing with a mouse before the final pounce. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, feeling my palms sweat despite the cold. I told myself, maybe it's just a drunk. Maybe he doesn't even realize he's doing it. But my gut wasn't buying it. My gut screamed to get away. I drove for miles like that, my heart hammering, eyes flicking constantly between the road and the rearview mirror. And he stayed, tailgating me through every curve, every blind turn, every inch of that godforsaken mountain road. Finally, I decided to pull over, pretend to mess with my GPS, pretend to make a call, pretend to do anything normal so that maybe he'd just keep driving. I picked a wide shoulder, eased off, hazard lights blinking. The truck rolled to a stop 20 feet behind me. His engine rumbled low, steady, like the growl of some caged beast waiting to be let loose. His headlights kept me pinned inside my car, trapped in that cold, artificial glow. I sat there, my breath fogging the inside of the windows, heart in my throat, hands numb on the steering wheel. Then the driver's door creaked open. It wasn't a loud sound, but in the silence of the night, it sounded like a gunshot. A tall figure stepped out, moving slowly, deliberately. The snow swallowed him below the knees, and still he came. I couldn't make out a face, just a silhouette, long, spindly, and wrong somehow, like a scarecrow come to life, stitched together with things that didn't quite fit right. He didn't call out. He didn't wave. He didn't do anything but start walking toward me. Some survival instinct, deep and ancient, roared to life inside me. Without even thinking, I slammed the car in a drive and floored it. Tires spun, skidding for half a second that felt like an eternity before catching purchase and launching me forward. I didn't look back. I didn't check the mirrors. I just drove, the snow whipping past in angry gusts, the shadows clawing at the edges of my vision. I must have gone 20 miles before I saw the glowing sign of a diner, the kind of place that probably hadn't changed since the 60s, all chrome edges and flickering neon. I stumbled inside, heart racing, hands trembling so badly I nearly pulled the door off its hinges. The waitress behind the counter looked up from wiping a coffee cup and stared at me, really stared. Her eyes flickered to the window behind me, like she expected to see something following. "You're the third one tonight," she said quietly. Her voice was steady, but her hand shook just a little. Same old truck. I opened my mouth to speak, but found I had no words, only cold air and the taste of fear on my tongue. I collapsed into a booth by the window, half expecting to see those headlights flare up outside, that twisted old grill leering at me from the dark. But there was nothing, just the empty parking lot, the falling snow, and the slow, inevitable rise of morning light far off behind the mountains. I stayed there till dawn, sipping burnt coffee and pretending everything was normal. I never found out who or what was behind that wheel. And deep down, part of me hopes I never do. Because some things, once seen, don't just stay on the road behind you. They find a way to follow, even into the places you think are safe, even into your dreams. Story 3. I was used to long, dead-end nights, used to the sound of my boots slapping cold concrete floors, forklifts humming somewhere in the distance, the warehouse lights flickering like they were about to give up. It was a job, not a good one, but it paid what little I needed. That night, though, that night was different. The clock punched midnight when I climbed into my beat-up sedan and pointed it toward home. A straight shot down old Highway 76, a stretch of road that wound through empty fields and darker woods. No lights, no towns, just two cracked lanes stretching into nowhere. I remember being bone tired, my body aching from hauling boxes all evening. The world outside my windows was pitch black, my headlights slicing through mist that clung to the road like smoke. I had the heater blasting and the windows cracked just enough to keep me awake. About 20 minutes in, I saw her. At first, she was just a shape, something pale at the edge of the beam. A woman standing by the roadside, barefoot, wearing a long white dress that clung to her like it was soaking wet. She raised her thumb in that old hitchhiker gesture, but slow, almost uncertain, like she wasn't sure if she even wanted to ride. Every warning bell in my head started screaming. You don't pick up hitchhikers. Not out here. Not at night. That's how people ended up on milk cartons. But there was something about her. Something hollow and broken in the way she stood there. Like she had nowhere else to go. Like if I left her, she might just dissolve into the mist and vanish. Before I knew it, my hands were turning the wheel. My tires hissed against the wet road as I pulled over a few yards ahead of her. I kept the engine running. My fingers hovered over the lock button. She opened the door and slid in without a word. The smell of river water filled the car instantly. Damp, earthy, almost sour. Her hair was a black tangle plastered against her face. Water dripped from her dress onto the torn floor mats. She didn't look at me. She didn't say thank you. She just stared out the windshield like she could see something in the dark that I couldn't. I swallowed and asked, "Where you headed?" Her head turned, creaking slow, like the air was thick around her. Her eyes met mine, pale, almost colorless, like the sky before a storm. "Home," she whispered. Only, it didn't sound right. Her voice wasn't one voice. It was two, twisting together. One high, one low, like a bad recording played over itself. My skin prickled. I shifted in my seat, trying to focus on the road, telling myself it was just exhaustion. Just my mind playing tricks on me after a long, hard shift. The car rumbled forward. The woman sat silent, watching. The drive stretched out, heavy with things unsaid. The mist outside thickened until it felt like I was tunneling through a dream. My hands clenched the steering wheel so hard my knuckles popped. 5 minutes passed, maybe 10. Then, in that awful, shivering silence, she spoke again. She said my name, not just my first name, my full name. She said it like she had known me forever, like she was rolling it around in her mouth, tasting it. Every hair on my body stood straight up. I glanced at the dashboard. No ID badge, no paperwork lying around. Nothing that would give her that information. My throat dried up. I wanted to ask her how she knew me. I wanted to pull over and tell her to get the hell out of my car. But I couldn't move. The air in the car grew colder. The windows fogged up from the inside, even though the heater was still on full blast. Finally, heart pounding, I forced myself to look at her. The seat was empty. My breath hitched. My hand shook on the wheel. I risked another glance. The door was still locked. But the seat was soaked like she'd left half a river behind. And on the passenger floor mat, muddy footprints, bare feet. The prints went up the side of the dashboard. It looked like someone had climbed up. I gripped the wheel tighter, my heart thundering against my ribs, and I didn't stop. I didn't dare stop. I drove faster than I ever had in my life. The road a blur, the mist clawing at the car like living fingers. I didn't look at the seat again. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. By the time I made it home, the first light of dawn was breaking through the mist. I stumbled into the house, locked the door behind me, and sat there in the kitchen until the sun was fully up, every light in the house blazing. I tried to tell myself it was a dream, that I'd imagined her, that maybe I dozed off behind the wheel and dreamed the whole damn thing. But the next morning, when I went back to my car to head to work, the passenger seat was still wet, and on the fogged up inside of the windshield, there were handprints, small, bare, and dragging down the glass, like someone trying to climb through to me. I sold that car 2 weeks later, but sometimes, late at night, when I drive down that same highway, I think I see her again, just a flicker at the side of the road. And every time, I keep my eyes straight ahead, and I don't stop, not ever again.